live. Welcome everyone to this week's Cryptocopia AMA live stream. If you're new around here, Cryptocopia is a community focusing on all things cryptocurrency. We're perfect for beginners and seasoned veterans alike. I'm your host, Michael Krupkala. You can find me on Twitter and on Discord at Mike Spellcheck. Today, we're joined by Alexander Zitelson, CEO and founder of Beam. Beam is an exciting privacy coin project that's built using the Mimblewimble cryptographic scheme. The project launched their mainnet release in early 2019, and they're headed to consensus in 2 weeks. So we wanted to sit down and see what they're up to. Alexander, how are you doing today?
Great. Very glad to be here. Excited.
Likewise, we're happy that you could join us. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started designing and building Beam?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career as a software developer after getting my MA in applied linguistics, which is a combination of studying languages and how they're built and computer science together. So, and then back in 2005, after I think 6-7 years of software development, I co-founded a company called Marius. It was 2005. We were doing stuff in peer-to-peer file sharing networks, which are, if you think of it, pretty similar in their architecture to cryptocurrencies or to permissionless networks that we are working in right now. So what we're doing there, we were monitoring those networks, like which files are being shared. We were trying to push paid content to those networks and so on, which was, looking backwards, pretty stupid because nobody wanted to buy. We did peer-to-peer file sharing on the mobile, a lot of really cool stuff back then, when the phones were those Symbian devices. We had our content sharing app for that platform. So after that, I created a product called Wikitub. It was a desktop dictionary that allowed you to click any word on your screen and get a translation to a lot of different languages, and to get videos or pictures representing that notion from different sources. Most of the translations were coming from Wiktionary, Wikipedia, also distributed and permissionless systems. So, I've been kind of moving towards this new world for quite some time. After that, I worked with VP of Product Management in a company called WeFi, doing a lot of big data analytics on mobile user behavior. And after that, I spent a couple of years in a VC fund here in Israel, investing in growth and late-stage companies in all kinds of industries. So, and after that, I felt that the VC world is somewhat I wanted to do stuff rather than, judge other people doing stuff. So I came back to the industry and joined Beam. I kind of say I'm a crypto old-timer. I learned about this whole stuff relatively late, maybe 2016, 2017. Started learning, bought some Bitcoin. And then, my friends were organizing Beam, and I joined as CEO.
Okay.
That's the story.
I mean, it's a great story. You've obviously had a lot of, really diverse experience. So which experience, which company would you say translates the most, or at least best, informs or helps you the most with what you're doing at Beam?
I'm actually, as a person, I like different experiences. I think each one of the experiences you have broadens your perspective, unless it's it totally sucks and you're just suffering. So, and I think, what I would like to think is, good about me being in this position with Beam is that I bring a diverse experience. I understand software development, I understand building startups, I understand the investor side, and I understand the broad set of industries that I was, exposed, especially during my years as a VC. So I cannot say that there is something very specific that this was the formative experience. No, I think it's the combination that I like to think about myself as, as a person who has a broad outlook, and it's very helpful in some situations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what does your day-to-day look like?
Well, get up in the morning, put my kids to school and kindergarten, and then drive for work. And then do AMAs with people. Frankly, it's very diverse, right? So in the crypto world, you have to, I have to manage the company. So we have all kinds of meetings, internal discussions all the time, talking about the plans, what we build next, playing with the product. Then we are talking to the community. Then we're talking to different partners, exchanges, journalists, merchant services providers, and that kind of stuff. Then you talk to investors, your existing investors, your future potential investors, building our roadmaps. So it's a very active life with a lot of stuff to address. And then suddenly there is a tweet about something, or suddenly you have to retweet that, now we released a new version of this and that, and then somebody says something. So it's like a lot of different activities. So it's both talking to the community in our Telegram, Twitter, and so on, and talking to potential partners. And then I'm doing quite a lot of travel. I'm going to conferences representing Beam. So it's a lot of fun. It's never dull. And I really love that, because then, if you have like some rest during the weekend, then you can really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats too. So I'm curious about like the early days of the Beam project. I'm wondering, it was the initial idea for Beam to be sort of a sidechain of the Bitcoin blockchain? Like, was it a focus of, Bitcoin, and then we can also add privacy features via Beam, or was it always planned to be a fully separate blockchain, a full business with its own features and goals?
Yeah, Beam was planned to be a separate blockchain from the get-go. Okay, so we realized that privacy is essential for any financial activity. It is also very clear, I think it was very clear, a year ago, 2 years ago, and it's also very clear now that changes in Bitcoin, making changes to Bitcoin is a daunting task, right. which is almost impossible. So right in the beginning, the idea was to organize a funded group of great people who can execute quickly and build a best-in-class privacy coin that will address the needs of tomorrow. So that's where we started. And since then, we understood that privacy enough per se is not good enough, that we also need to think in the future, we need to also think about a system which can live with the existing legacy financial establishment. And that's where the idea of opt-in compliance came from, right? So today we position Beam as first and foremost a best-in-class privacy coin, but our longer-term vision includes a privacy coin that's eventually suitable to be used by businesses. And that means it needs to support some sort of audit reporting.
Okay, but it's opt-in. It's not necessarily the default feature.
That's the idea, right? Because obviously, or maybe not so obviously, governments probably kind of like Bitcoin. I mean, there is some stuff that is that looks like very friendly to regulation or to governments, because everything is an open book, right? So if you have some resources and it becomes easier with time, you can see everything, right? And that's what they kind of like. Now, what they don't like is that other governments and other people and anyone, anywhere can also see the same. So what they would probably love to do is to have a system where only they can see everything and nobody else can.
Right.
But the technology genie is out of the bottle. You cannot have it. So we see the future of currency or of money and digital instruments as having a significant portion of activity that is confidential but can be disclosed to the government. Again, and it's important to say it can be disclosed if the owner wants to do so. And we believe most businesses will want to do so. But that leaves people their right to their privacy, meaning that if I don't want to disclose my information, somewhat similar to what happens today with cash, right? When I spend my cash, I don't have to inform anyone. And that's good. And we're seeing that this liberty is being kind of taken away from us slowly but steadily. So crypto and confidential crypto returns that. We want to build a hybrid system which gives both privacy but can also be accepted and embraced by businesses on a large scale.
Okay. Yeah, and you say that that right is being taken away slowly in some countries, not even too slowly. I've seen in India over the past 2 or 3 years they've been rolling back denominations of rupee, I think. Like they got rid of the 100 bill, I'm pretty sure, maybe last year, and the more
right.
You lose the ability to spend money the way that you choose to spend your money.
Yeah, right. And also, Sweden, there are rumors that Sweden is going like 100% cashless, meaning that, no privacy whatsoever at all. I'm not sure we want to live in a world like that, you don't have privacy at all. And and people don't really realize that. People don't realize that because they think, well, why do I need privacy and I'm not doing anything wrong? But then I usually ask you, okay, so now imagine I see all your credit card statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can tweet about you. Oh, why did he go to the liquor store on a Thursday, right? Or, oh, suddenly he's buying so much at the supermarket. Or, oh, he spent this and that money in the flower store, right? And there might be nothing bad about that, and the person might have perfect explanation. But, this very possibility of somebody poking into your life like this is frightening. And right now there are a lot of very, very easy ways, to offend people, with the cyberbullying and that. If you give, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Cyberbullying maybe is not such a huge problem, but just to think about a very ordinary person who suddenly has all their finances exposed, they can feel that it can be very bad, right? Because it can be then watched and interpreted in all kinds of ways that are hurtful.
Right.
And again, this is just the most the simplest thing you can do. Let's talk about businesses, let's talk about trading, all other stuff. It can really hurt and ruin businesses and eventually lives.
And I think especially for groups who have been marginalized in the past or worry about that happening, if the state of things isn't bad right now, and we start to lose, oh, well, I can't really spend money, without somebody knowing about it, but that's okay because I'm not doing anything wrong. That's an easy, excuse to make, or thing to not worry about in the moment. But then the moment that somebody wants to harm you in some way, or tweet about the money that you spent on Sunday or on Thursday or on whatever you're doing, just to achieve their own goals because they have some bad intention, then you're at risk. Then there's nothing, you can't roll it back after, like you said, the genie is out of the bottle.
Exactly.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the actual implementation? So Beam is built on top of Mimblewimble, which is a cryptographic scheme that now with Bitcoin, when you send a Bitcoin to somebody, you automatically publicize the address that you're sending Bitcoins from, the address that you're sending Bitcoins to, and the amount of coins that are with Beam, none of that happens. How exactly does that occur? How do you guys pull that off?
Sure. So Bitcoin, if you put it in a very simple metaphorical way, is like a huge table, a ledger with numbers and balances, right? And also with a history of all the transactions. And that's the way, and keeping that this way gives everyone a way to validate that that everything is okay.
Right.
Now, Mimblewimble is built on a different paradigm. And by the way, in that it's very different from all the other privacy coins, because the privacy coins like Monero, Zcash, and some others, they took the Bitcoin paradigm and added a lot of complex and beautiful stuff on top to hide things. Okay? And that, although it might give good privacy, but the price is that the blockchain becomes much bigger because you just need to add stuff to hide. Okay, now Mimblewimble is different. So the Mimblewimble, the paradigm is not a ledger of transactions and of accounts. Instead, you can think of Mimblewimble as a huge wall of safe deposit boxes. Imagine like a bank vault with, you know, a lot of safe deposit boxes. Okay, and they all look exactly the same. Now, what users have is they have keys to those safe deposit boxes. So as a user, I don't have an address in Mimblewimble. Instead, I hold keys to one or more safe deposit boxes. Now, when I want to send you some funds, again, very metaphorically, what I do is I take one of those safe deposit boxes. I create a actually you create a new safe deposit box for yourself with the funds that I plan to send you, and I create a new one for myself with a change. Let's say I had 100 in my initial one, and then I want to send you 50, so you create one with 50, I create one with 50. Now, and we do that by talking, okay? So there is a conversation between the two of us. It's not just sending and forgetting, it's a conversation. And then what we do is we take those three safe deposit boxes that are locked, and we send them to the miners, to the community, to everyone to validate. Now, what they validate is that the total amount that went in equals the total amount that went out. And they do this without knowing the actual amounts. And that's super important. So everything they know is that there was one box and it was divided into two. And that whatever was in the first box was divided between the two output boxes. So meaning that no new money was printed. And that's it. So one deposit box, one safe deposit box becomes two safe deposit boxes with different keys. And you now have your key from your box, and I have the key from my new box, and the old box is destroyed. That's what happens, right? So then nobody can tell how much money I have because there is no relation between my different safe deposit boxes, and there is no indication that it even belongs to me. Only I know that. Okay, so that's very simply how it works. Now the cryptography is pretty standard, I would say, as standard as cryptography could be. It's still a very complex thing, but it's not something that people call like moon math, like Zcash or something. That's much simpler.
Okay. Yeah, I was while I was reviewing this, I saw that it's using elliptic curve cryptography, which is
using elliptic curve cryptography. But again, that's pretty standard in today's world.
Right.
So the transaction, the cryptography comes in when you want to prove that the sum of inputs equals the sum of outputs. Mm-hmm. There is a cryptographic proof, and then there is what's called zero knowledge range proof. We are using bulletproofs technology to do that because you also need to make sure that the amounts are above zero. Because if I could take 100. Give you 200 and give myself minus 100, and then the sum would still be the same, right? 100 here, 100 there, but then we printed money out of nowhere. So the community, the network needs to validate that all the amounts in the inputs and the outputs are positive. And we do that, again, without letting them know what the amounts are. Now, the transaction history actually doesn't have to be stored. It's not stored. So the blockchain is just the current state of all those safe deposit boxes. So before we made the transaction, the state was state A, where I had this safe deposit box. Now we made the transaction, the state became state B. Okay, and then there's the list of what's called transaction kernels, which just hold like a very small proof that the transaction was valid without any information in it. So at any moment, any new node joining the network needs to download the current state and the proof that it was reached in a valid way. And it can also validate in the very same way as we did with our transaction. It can validate that the total amount of Beam coins in all of the boxes equals the total amount of coins that were ever mined. Because when a coin is minted, this is a public event, public transaction.
Okay.
Again, we don't know exactly who, there's no address, but the fact that a new coin was born is public, so everyone in the system knows how many coins there are, and they can do the same check that, okay, all those inputs by mining resulted in all those outputs that are the UTXOs that are owned by everyone else.
Right, okay. So now, would the transaction kernel be used for the opt-in auditability if a business wanted to prove?
Partly, yes. The transaction kernel is a very nice thing which is extensible. So we can put more stuff in there. And that stuff could include, say, a hash of some sort of a document package that was signed while doing this transaction. Now, and the conversational nature of the protocol allows for that. Because what we can do with Mimblewimble is, okay, I want to send you 10,000 Beam, but when I do that, I check a checkbox and my wallet tells your wallet, well, I want an invoice, okay? And then you get like a pop-up message saying, please attach an invoice, or send a link to an invoice, or something like that. You do it, then I receive it and I validate this is fine, and then I add the hash of invoice or whatever else was part of this transaction to the kernel, and then it can later be proven that this particular transaction was done against those particular documents, which can include a lot of stuff according to what the two sides agree on.
Got it. What does the roadmap look like for that auditability feature?
So the roadmap, we are now working on initial steps for that. There's still a lot of conceptualization on how exactly it should work, because it's, to make it really useful and working in practice, I think we'll need a couple more years, frankly, because it's not just the technology, which is in itself not very easy, but it's also all the ecosystem that needs to learn to accept it. And we're working with strong industry partners to do that. So we are looking at different pieces of the puzzle now. We just released something we call proof of payment, because in a fully private protocol, right? If I send you 100 Beam, I mean, you could deny that later. You could say, well, you didn't, or you sent me 1. Where's the remaining 9? So now we have a proof, something cryptographic that can prove, and then prove to anyone else. I can send it to anyone I want, and prove that the amount of 100 Beam was sent from that address. An address is like a one-time token in our system. We still call it address for usability, but it's not really an address. It's like a token in our internal messaging system, which is used for the wallets to talk between them. Okay, I can expand on that. I know it sounds a little bit confusing. So in basically Mimblewimble, in order to start a transaction, you need to start a communication with 2 wallets. And like the plain vanilla is just to do IP-based. Okay, this is my IP address, this is the port, so the wallets start talking. But this is very not privacy friendly, right? Because somebody could just observe the network traffic. So what we built a system we call a security bulletin board system, SBBS. It's like, a Facebook Messenger for our wallets. Okay, so when somebody asks to receive funds on Beam, they get a receive address, but basically it's just their token inside this messaging system for wallets. And then the wallets start communicating, and nobody can see who's communicating to whom. Okay, so getting back to compliance, so as I mentioned, this proof of payment is like one of the bricks that will be needed later. The kernel extensibility we discussed is another brick, and it's a long way because we really need to do it right so that all the ecosystem eventually can accept this.
Got it. You were talking a little bit earlier about so yeah, there are technical challenges to building something this complicated, but there are also, there's education that you have to do with your partners and with bringing some, technology that's this new into the business ecosystem. I'm just really curious, like, what does that look like? Like, what kind of conversations are you having? Like, what are the attitudes that traditional businesses tend to bring to your team to blockchain? Like, what are their concerns? What are they excited about?
So you're talking about the businesses, right?
Yeah, the businesses that you're working with and you're bringing into the ecosystem.
So we are having conversations with businesses, and whenever we're talking, people understand that running a business on a non-confidential currency does not really work that well, right? I mean, if you imagine running all of your business on something that's not confidential, I mean, you need to be a special business person, right? Or you need to spend most of your time hiding or trying or hoping to hide your stuff, which is not what businesses like to do, obviously, because they want to do their business. Or you're just, it may be good for some sort of, a very open nonprofit charity organization, but even there, I'm not sure they want all the employees know how much they're getting, or suppliers know how much they were paying the previous catering guy last month, right? So this is very clear to every business. Right. Now, and then it's also very easy to explain it. Okay, the privacy currency is a solution, but then you guys need to pay taxes and need to report your money, and then you also want to come to a bank and pass AML at some point, right? Whether you like it or not. And guess what? With existing privacy technologies, it's next to impossible. And then they understand, yeah, okay, this makes perfect sense. Now, if I were to say that absence of privacy is like the only thing that stops large-scale adoption of cryptocurrencies today, it would be true, right? There is volatility, there is the fear, technology risk, the necessity to manage your own keys. So I wouldn't say that our mass adoption of this confidential plus compliant will start with actual businesses. I think it will start more with traditional crypto players like traders, exchanges, because they also need that, right? Regulated exchange needs to do AML, right? Sure. So and enabling it on a conventional currency is not easy. Okay, and it's a big task. So I think this will come first, and then the businesses will follow. But of course, we're starting the conversation right now, and like the problem is very clear to everyone. Like, it's very clear why it's hard to use something that's not confidential, not compliant.
Yeah, I understand that. Listen, everybody, we're going to open up the floor, I would say, in 5 minutes. Yeah, we've got some good amount of questions in the AMA thread so far. But yeah, keep hitting us up. Let us know what you want to hear from Alexander. Let us know, and we want to make sure that you get to ask your questions. So in the meantime, I just wanted to, I guess, clarify. So, looking at the roadmap, Beam isn't intending to become some sort of smart contract platform in the future with smart contract functionality, correct? It's privacy point focused and
actually we are having some thoughts about that as well.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, it's pretty early, but Beam is more and will be more than just one blockchain for one Beam coin. Very early in the development, we published the fact that there can be additional confidential, we call it confidential assets, but basically additional tokens issued on top of the blockchain. Okay? So it is possible. The protocol supports that. So imagine once you have that, and there are ways to enable certain smart contract-like functionality, part of it through what's called scriptless scripts, which is a very neat cryptographic technology that allows things like atomic swaps, which we just demonstrated recently, escrow transactions, time lock transactions, and more. And we're researching more ways. So once you can issue A, additional tokens, and B, you can assign some sort of smarts to them. And this can go from something very simple to something going all the way to STO-like behavior, right? Where you say, okay, this token can only be transferred to another guy if that other guy meets certain criteria and can show his KYC and so on and so forth. So this is something we are thinking of. It looks possible. So, and once we kind of finalize this roadmap and this new beam, so we'll be able to share that. But what I can say now is that there is more to the Beam blockchain than just one Beam coin being traded, which is great on its own, but it might grow to something much bigger.
Yeah, that's exciting. Super cool. Why don't we open it up? Let's go to some questions from the Cryptocopia Discord. First user, Yo, wants to know, can you give us any information about exchange listings?
Well, the information on all exchange listings is out there on our website. I cannot give any more or any less information that we've shared so far. Right now, we're on about 20 exchanges. There is constant discussion, work, conversations in the world, but this is pretty much what I'm allowed to share.
That's fair. Next up, WQP. I'm sure you guys get this question all the time. How does Beam compare themselves to Grin?
Oh, sure. It's a great question. So Green started before us. We are different. Okay, let's say where we're similar. We're both super excited about privacy, both projects, and we're both doing Mimblewimble. So it's like two sister projects. We maintain friendly contacts with Green Team. Me personally, I admire them for their desire to build something for the community without actually monetarily benefiting from that in any way. But as I like to say, we're fighting on basically on the same side of the front in a lot of ways, right? So we are pushing for privacy in the world of crypto. So this is what's similar. Now, and then there are differences, right? We are a for-profit entity. We raised funds from investors. We're paying people salaries. So the model is different. The governance is different. We're now setting up a foundation that will eventually take over the governance. But right now we're more centralized than Grin. Although I could argue then in both Grin and Beam, there is a relatively small group of people that's making all the decisions, right? But we do have a structure and everything it entails. Now, that's one. Two is the emission schedule, right? Grin went with an unlimited supply. We went with more traditional Bitcoin-like capped supply schedule. So people who like to think about cryptocurrency as more store of value probably would prefer a capped supply curve rather than an endless supply curve. Mm-hmm. And the third difference, I think, is kind of philosophical. So we believe that eventually crypto will coexist with the banks and governments and everything else. And we want to eventually make Beam fit this existing paradigm. While I think their approach is more like cypherpunk, and Grin probably will not do things like that. So those would be the key differences, at least in my view. And of course, there's a ton of technical differences, the mining algorithm, the programming language, but those are like more technical details, which are less interesting, I think.
Okay.
At least
you spoke this already a little bit, but I was wondering, like how that relationship looks between the two teams. Would you describe it as more competitive or more cooperative?
Well, there is definitely certain competition, but we are also having, being the only two teams, let's say, or the biggest or the best teams doing Mimblewimble, we do have technical conversations on certain issues, very friendly conversations. You will never hear bad mouth. I don't think Grin ever said, any, like, we had some arguments, but not bad mouthing us or we've been mouthing them.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep it that way, and I think it's, personally, I think there is enough space in crypto for two Mimblewimble projects, and we do hope that there are some more. Now there's BitGrin, and I think a couple more. So we'll help everything grow. So we are competing, but it's a friendly competition. It's you won't hear like scandals and heated arguments between us publicly.
I mean, 20, 30 years from now, maybe the competition is going to look different within crypto because it'll be more established. But right now, there's so much room, because we're sort of open water and blue water, nobody's really fighting for scraps right now.
Yeah, I agree. So we are always talking about the differences between, and as I just said, and then, people judge for themselves what they like most, what they connect to more, or maybe they like both, or maybe they don't like either. So yeah, there are differences, but I would wish to see even more Mimblewimble projects out there. And we see it happens because eventually the whole Mimblewimble space will grow because it's a really, really great protocol.
All right, thank you for that. Next up from our users, we have Foolish Professional, who wants to ask you, Alexander, what is being done with the 20% fee on each mined block?
Okay, so the 20% treasury is divided between three groups. Okay, we raise money from investors, and so 35% of that treasury goes to the investors. Okay, over the first, now the treasury, just to remind everyone, the treasury comprises 20% of all the coins issued in the first 5 years. It's according to our mission schedule. In the first 5 years, it will be about 150 million coins. So out of the 30 million go to the treasury. Okay, now out of that, 35% goes to the investors who risked their money to make this all happen. Okay, 40 to 45% remains with the core team and advisors, and is used for development, and 20% is slated for the foundation. So, and this foundation that will be set up hopefully very soon. It turned out to be a complex process of just setting up this nonprofit body. But the goal of the foundation will be just to fund the further development of the protocol after the company passes the control of the foundation. And we, as the original team, don't want to run that foundation. We might be on the foundation board, maybe 1 or 2 seats, but we don't want to be a majority there, definitely. So we want to attract people from the industry and the foundation will just distribute grants to developers, somewhat similar to what Zcash Foundation is doing, and maybe some others. So the idea is to pass the governance and the stewardship of the protocol to first the foundation, and then whenever the foundation kind of winds down after 5 or maybe more years, then just the goal is to get to a fully community developed project.
That actually ties in really well with our next question. So Top Alon wants to know, we were just talking about Grin, and so if Grin is fully community driven right now, how does Beam create an incentive to participate in their project?
Yeah, so right now we do have some people who participate in what we're doing. I must say less so than Grin does. And the goal of the foundation will be exactly this, to generate more involvement of the community into the process by issuing grants, by doing hackathons, by doing more education. because right now we are less, I mean, it's not like we're less open, but it so happens that we're doing much more work in-house that people outside are doing, right? So, and that's the goal of the foundation, is to involve that. So right now, and the result of that, though, is that the quality and the speed of what we can do is very high. You know, by now, after just 1 year from inception, and remember, Beam is not a fork of anything. We just took, you know, a new, you know, Visual Studio file, new project, right? Empty. Mm-hmm. So we have collaboration blockchain, we have graphical wallets for all the platforms out there, you know, iOS, Android, all the PC platforms that are very easy to use. Send, receive it. You don't even feel it's like something strange like Mimblewimble. It operates like very, very normally, very user-friendly. We just published our atomic swaps, and we're working on hardware wallet integration. So there's a lot of work. So our goal right now is to give a huge push to this train that's called Beam, and build all the necessary infrastructure, and then have the foundation generate more and more and more involvement by the community.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about what that process might look like when you start to transfer things over to the foundation?
Sure, absolutely. So the way we see the process right now is a system where there is a board of directors, 5 to 7 people from the industry, hopefully well-renowned, respected, and smart people from different disciplines, maybe from cryptography, maybe from trading, and from all kinds of disciplines. That will be running a foundation which issues grants, right? So imagine a system where people can propose ideas. Okay, I want to develop a wallet for Apple Watch. Okay, give me a grant. And then the people on this foundation forum will discuss, and then the board will decide whether to grant or not. Or some researcher might come up and say, okay, I want to grant to research improvements to Mimblewimble protocol. Or an event organizer might come in and say, or a group might say, well, we want to do a conference on privacy in space, so why don't you fund it? Stuff like that. And then the foundation will sometimes also have, not sometimes, it will definitely have its own roadmap where it will also issue projects for people to work on. Okay, and it will work also on awareness, hackathons, all the stuff to increase the number of people involved in the project and increase the awareness. So basically, it's a system where there are projects either proposed by the foundation or by the community, and these projects are funded with Beam coins, and people just do them. And with time, the community will grow, and the number of people involved will grow. And this interest will generate desire to continue the development in the foreseeable future.
Okay, so then at that point, the development is as close to decentralized as possible. The mining is distributed, you know, with all the different nodes in the network. So, you know, it would look a lot different than it may look right now, and that's the goal.
Yeah. So the goal is that it looks very different in terms of centralization of development. Again, there still will be a central body probably that makes the decisions, but the community involvement will be more and more and more. It will finally evolve to something as distributed as possible.
Cool. All right, we have 10 to 15 more minutes. Cryptocopia, keep hitting us up in the AMA thread. Let us know if you want to, you know, if you have any questions that you want to ask Alexander, let us know and we'll ask for you. But in the meantime, Yo wants to know if there are any additional news about the Litecoin Beam partnership.
Not right now. We're still like in research phase. Things took longer than everybody wants them to take. So stay tuned.
Okay. Yiki, wants to know, is Litecoin planning for Mimblewimble addition on their chain?
Yeah, so that's what was announced, and they're now working on initial architecture of how this can look like. They're doing that on their own schedule, so we're talking periodically. It takes some time, so as I said, stay tuned. I hope we'll have some good news soon.
Cool. We'll actually get this a little bit later too, but where should we be watching? Like, what channels should we pay attention to? Telegram?
Well, yeah, we have our Telegram. To me, our main channels are Telegram and Twitter. That's what we like most. You can subscribe to our newsletter. It's a weekly thing, very nice. And definitely, anything interesting happens, it's there. The Telegram and Twitter are the best thing. We also have Discord and a lot of other channels, but these are the main ones.
Got it. We just had one more question pop up about the Litecoin partnership from Virtual John. So they wanted to know, what does the partnership with Litecoin look like? Like maybe how did that get started? What kind of conversations happened there?
So Litecoin team got interested in Mimblewimble, and they started talking to us. We started kind of discussing how we can work together and how we can help them in their development to see and help them understand how Mimblewimble can fit Litecoin. And there was some talk about extension blocks, okay, which is not exactly a side chain, but something similar in nature. All right, so we had some initial conversation. It seems interesting. We're ready to help because we feel that is a good recognition of our expertise in the field, which is very true. But it takes time. It takes time. So eventually, once it happens, then Litecoin might want or end up really implementing Mimblewimble as sidechain. Again, we'll need to see. There may be some challenges there. Technology.
Okay. We had a question from Twitter come in, actually. So which VCs did Beam raise from?
So we have the full list on our website, but I can name some of those VCs include Node Capital, Collider Capital, C1 Capital, 1KX Capital, and some others, Lemniscap. Yeah, so it's a pretty long list, but it's all the funds were raised from investors specializing exclusively in crypto, and they're helping us a lot. We're very grateful. UOB Capital, Yeomans Capital, Protos Asset Management, Continue Capital, Hexalabs, Ezra Fund, Base2, Alternity. I guess that's the censored list. And we also raised from a large Japanese company called Recruit. It's like a $15 billion corporation that has a fund that looks into future technologies, and they thought we were interesting enough for them to invest.
Awesome.
So we didn't, just to stress that, we, like a lot of other projects, we didn't do an ICO. We didn't raise from any private people. All of our investors know exactly what they're doing, and they know it's a risky business. So and me being a VC before, I think this is the right way to fund startups, is to use professional people who understand the risk and can ask the right questions, rather than try to raise money from the public, in which the ordinary, just a person investing in this public offering doesn't usually have the expertise and the time to ask the right questions. And then there is a lot of potential for disappointment, so to say, and frustration.
Okay. Which we've seen with one or two of the ICOs, from 2017, around that time period, unfortunately. But as it is at this point.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from now, as I understand it, you guys are heading over to New York. It's Blockchain Week. Consensus is coming up, Ethereum, a ton of other conferences in the city. Which conferences are you planning on hitting up?
So I'll be attending the Magical Crypto Conference, BreakerCon. I think they changed the name. Consensus. And maybe a couple of others. I'm sure there will be, like, I saw the schedule, there will be tons of events everywhere, so it will be like a lot of bar hopping or conference hopping, but there are some main ones that I'll definitely be present at.
And I'm just curious, like from a marketing perspective, when you go to a conference like that, what are you looking to gain? Like, are you setting a ton of meetings? Is there anything that you could share with us, maybe any news, or is it generally more sort of an awareness thing?
It's a combination. So definitely we have some meetings set up in advance. And this crypto world being relatively small, there is also a lot of meeting friends and people you met before, just to update and continue the conversations. And I know listening to the talks is also a big part, because, guess what, in a lot of cases there's a lot of interesting stuff to learn. So it's learning, awareness, obviously meetings, and being in the industry, being in the crowd.
Got it. Last question for me. I don't really see any more in the AMA thread. We'll be sure to ask if one or two more come in, but we're about to close it out. So, Alexander, what are you excited to see happen in 2019? Which developments are you excited and looking forward to, Beam and otherwise, just within the whole space?
So I hope to, from Beam, I hope and I'm sure we'll do a lot more cool stuff, and we'll run forward in our roadmap, and we'll release the things we plan to release, like Flori's Atomic Swap and the hardware wallet, and we'll also eventually formulate our bigger vision that I just started talking about. So this is what I expect from us. Now, from the industry, I think it will be great to see more institutional acceptance and of the cryptocurrency and crypto world. ETFs, that would be a big step, because I think one of the huge challenges is to make it easier for people to invest in cryptocurrency. And, I just talked to a friend, about my business and about crypto in general, and said, okay, well, how do you get to your coin? I know you're a good guy, so how do you get to? So I said, well, you first need to go to this place. You need to set up a wallet, put down 24 words, then you have to buy Bitcoin, then you have to register an exchange, and then he said, well, wait, I really love you, but it's too much. Okay, so yeah, so right now there is this barrier of fear of fraud, and it's technology barrier, because in my view, once you're in the world of crypto, like once you have this Bitcoin or whatever in your mobile wallet or in your desktop wallet, from there it's easy. It's even the experience is easier than a credit card. Scan a barcode, send your money, it's there, boom. But getting there is scary and difficult for regular people. Mm-hmm. And I hope that in this year there will be more opportunities for traditional, non-technical, non-cypherpunk people to be exposed to this asset. And once this happens, the whole industry will start going out. It will be more accepted, more respected by regular investors, regular people. And that will start, I think that will start a bigger path to adoption.
And I think we're seeing that too. I mean, there's Fidelity and making announcements. It feels like every
yeah. So I really expect to see much more of that. And again, from our standpoint, I expect to see much more talk about privacy. There is a lot of talk about privacy right now, but I think will come hand in hand, because as more institutional players come into this game, they will very quickly understand that privacy must be addressed. Again, because coming back to the beginning of the talk, if everybody sees what I'm doing, then it's a problem.
Right.
It's a problem, and that's where we are targeting. So what I say is that as everyone realizes they want to use crypto in a meaningful way, as as means of exchange or as like their main or like one of their main asset classes or currencies, then they will realize that they need all those qualities that I was talking about, and then we will be there. And that will not happen tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow.
But we will get there. Alexander, listen, thank you so much for sitting down with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you. It's been great. It's been great. I really liked it. Great questions. So, I hope we'll meet more in the future. And if you have any questions or anyone else, hit us up on Telegram or website whenever. And myself personally.
Twitter,
we're here.
Project, correct?
Yeah. Sorry, Twitter?
Yeah, your username, that's at Beam Project, Beam Privacy.
Yeah, that is Beam Privacy. Beam Privacy. That's our Twitter. Beam Privacy. That's right. So follow it, like, retweet, everything.
All right. Yeah, we'll be watching. Same goes for us. Everybody, if you're new to Cryptocopia, you can find us on Twitter at crypto_copia. We're mainly based in the Discord, so you can go to our website and join our Discord there. That's where we're talking about crypto all day long. News, projects, prices, like literally everything. We're covering it. We're 1,300, 1,400 members strong right now. But yeah, Alexander, thank you again for doing this. We'll be definitely following Beam, and we're excited to see what you guys are up to over the course of next year. Until next time, Alexander. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. Thanks a lot. And thanks to all the guys in the community who asked the questions. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Us too. All right, take care. Until next time.
Yeah, until next time. Bye-bye.